Hello, thank you for listening. This is the near death experience of Ivan, and this experience occurred in 1994. Open quote. The experience is far too long and detailed to write down here in full detail. In what was approximately 25 to 30 minutes in our time was approximately 3 days' time in the experience. After collapsing dead, of which I was not aware of, as it must have been rather sudden, the entire events of my life went through my mind in an instant. I would say this process took less than a second, a fraction of a second. It was rather complete as it reminded me of many things I had entirely forgotten about years prior. Immediately after this, some mechanism in my mind triggered automatically that caused me to involuntarily judge myself. There was no rational or conscious thought to this whatsoever. It was instant and involuntary, as if an unknown program in my mind had suddenly activated and executed. The judgment must have been bad because of what happened next. I do not actually know what the judgment of myself was, since there was no inner voice speaking or any sort of way of knowing internally. Immediately I fell through the earth as if the earth were no longer solid and I were skydiving or something. I do not really know how to put this experience into words, as there is nothing I can draw upon to explain it except to say that I literally fell through the soil, rocks, minerals, water, etc. It was not so much a tunnel as just literally passing through the solids, which at this point were anything but solid, as if the bonds of the atoms making of the earth were of no consequence, and I simply passed through it. I could see rocks, grains of sand, soils, etc., passing through my eyes. Although I could sense the things passing through me, there was no friction and no pain. It was, however, rather terrifying. After what seemed quite some time falling, I slammed into a floor in the hallway. This hurt very bad, and the floor was extremely hard and flat and very cold. After I managed to regain my composure and stand up, I realized I had hit a highly polished green marble floor within a hallway leading in two directions, lined with doors on both sides. The walls of the hallways were also covered in the same green marble tiles. These tiles were quite large in size, being something like 28 to 36 inches square. They were highly polished, as if perfectly smooth, even smoother than fine glass, and highly reflective. The were well lit and evenly lit, even though I saw no lights anywhere. At this time, I was very confused and very panicked. I ran down one direction the hallway only to find no end and just more and more doors lining the hallway. So I decided to open a door and see if I could figure out where I was and what was going on. Behind this door was an empty room, except for a woman and a toilet in the middle of the room, and she was cleaning the toilet while on her knees. She was dressed in worn and dirty clothes, and she ignored me until I spoke to her. I asked her who she was, and where I was, and what was going on. She told me to go away and leave her alone. She then said, "He is always watching. Go away." I asked her to stop and talk to me, and she said, "I can't." I asked her to please stop what she was doing and explain to me what was going on. She simply said, "He is always watching. I must clean the toilet." I again asked her to stop, and she said she could not, and to leave immediately. I went to another door down the hallway and opened it, and there was a man strapped to what looked like a barber's chair, being force-fed food by three women. The man was unable to speak, as his mouth was never empty of food being shoved into his mouth. There was a table next to the chair full of food, and as the women picked up more food and forced into the man's mouth, then new food would appear on the table to replace what had been taken and used. One of the women yelled at me to leave. I asked what was going on, and where was I, and the woman shouted, "You don't know?" and laughed at me. She told me he is always watching, and we can't stop, and told me to leave, shouting at me. I ran again quite some distance, but the hallway did not change. Just endless green marble and doors on both sides. I finally opened a third door to find another man strapped to a chair with 3 beautiful naked women dancing around him as if they were teasing him. I tried again to find out what was going on, but the women ignored me, and the man was unable to speak as his mouth was gagged. So I again ran down the hallway, deciding in my mind that if I continued in the same direction, then at some point I would reach an end or junction or something. I ran very far, but I was unable to find an end to the hallway or to the doors that lined the hallway. I reached a point of physical exhaustion and stopped when suddenly a man appeared. He was about 6'2" tall, had jet black hair and white skin. He was dressed in a fine suit and black tie. He opened a door next to us and asked me to step into the room with him and that he would explain everything to me. I walked into the room, and the first thing I noticed is that this room was about 3 or 4 times the size of the previous rooms I had seen. The room contained 2 chairs and a very long banquet table, with nothing but a white tablecloth on the table that ran the entire length of the table. He asked me to sit down, so I took a chair. He looked at me and asked if I knew who he was. When this man spoke, it was the best use of language I had ever heard a person use in my life. This man was obviously extremely skilled in language and words, his use of language of comforting and soothing. In addition, this man was extremely good-looking and perfectly manicured/groomed, and his suit was very well tailored. I explained to him that I have no idea where I was or how I got here. He says he wasn't expecting me, but was happy nonetheless to see me there. He wouldn't answer my questions about where I was, and instead brought up other things to talk about. He asked if I was hungry, and I said I guess. But that is not what I was really concerned about at the moment. I turned and looked at the table, and it was full of food. The food was very fancy and looked amazing. He asked me to have something to eat, and that he would explain everything to me. So not knowing what to do, I sampled some food. I do not remember exactly what I sampled, except I do remember it probably is the best thing I had ever tasted. I asked him who the woman was that I saw in the room who was cleaning a toilet, and why she wouldn't talk to me. The man said that no one in any room would talk to me, as they are not allowed to. He explained that the woman was cleaning the toilet forever because the toilet never gets clean, and that's one thing she really hated in life, was cleaning toilets. I said, well, if she hates it then, why doesn't she just stop? The man said she can't stop. I was rather confused. I asked about the man being forced to eat food continuously and the other man with the 3 naked women dancing around him. The man said that the man being forced food loved food so much in his life and was gluttonous, and the other man loved sex in his life and would now spend eternity looking at the most beautiful women but never being allowed to touch them. The man asked me again if I knew who he was. I said no, but at this point I was getting very afraid, and things were not looking good, and things were looking very bad and very weird. The man stood before me and announced that he was Satan, and he welcomed me to his palace. I immediately stood up and said to him I had to leave, and that I should not be here. Under normal circumstances, I would dismiss such a person as a lunatic. However, given what I had seen thus far, and given what I had feeling inside, I half believed this man. I ran and ran for I ran out of the room and began running down the hallway again, the endless hallway. It felt futile, but I was scared and continued running. I could see the man laughing behind me. Suddenly, I could hear him in my head saying, "Where are you going? There is no escape." I ran and ran for what seemed like literally an hour or more, and then I finally found another hallway which was perpendicular and also went in two directions, except that this new hallway was red marble. I began running down this hallway in one direction, hoping to find an exit, and all the while I could hear the man in my mind saying things to me. I do not remember everything he said, as at this point I was in pure panic, just running and trying to get away. However, basically, he was telling me that I could not escape from his palace and that I could not stop from hearing his voice in my head, and so forth. I ran for what seemed like a very long time until I came upon another junction where I stopped. This new hallway was white marble, but had no doors on the walls. I paused for a brief time, then started walking down this white hallway when suddenly something behind me started yelling at me to stop. I ran like hell as fast as I could. This thing was chasing me down the hallway, and I had no idea what it was. It looked like a giant head with no legs or arms or body. As I ran down the hall, the white marble turned to white plaster, and as I continued to run, the white plaster walls began to appear to have body parts in the walls. As I ran farther and farther, it became apparent there were people plastered into the walls, and they were still alive. Then the plaster turned into a flexible white material. The people in the walls were trying to grab me. The thing chased me down the hall, continued to yell at me to stop, but I didn't. I finally came to the end of the end, and it was a dead end. I was so scared, I actually ran straight into the dead end, at which point I remember the pain of my face and body being pressed against the wall at the end of the hall. But before I fell down, the thing chasing me slammed right into the back of me, pushing me through the wall and into a complete darkness. The darkness of totally void of light. I could see nothing. I do not know if I was falling or floating or flying. I did not sense gravity anymore. I think at some point I became motionless. Then a white light appeared and came forth and completely engulfed me, and I found myself in a room, I think. I don't know where I was actually. It was like a room, but there were no walls or ceiling or floor, just this incredible white light everywhere. Then a different man came toward me and asked me to sit down, and suddenly a chair appeared behind me. So I sat down. This man came, sat down in another chair about 8 feet in front of me. He asked me if I was okay. I told the man I felt a lot of pain as I had just hit a solid wall and then was pushed through it, all while feeling every bone in my body being snapped and crushed. Yet somehow, now, I was all right. I seemed all right anyway. I asked the man who he was, and he said, "Well, first, don't you want to know where you were previously and who the other man was?" I said that he told me he was Satan, and this man said that was correct, and that I was in a part of hell. However, now I was safe. I asked where I was now, and the man explained to me that I was in a realm constructed so we could have a conversation. I asked who he was, and he said he was God. I didn't know what to think at this point, but I asked him why he saved me from hell, or if that's what was what he want, or if that was what he did. He said he did, in fact, save me from hell, and that he saved me because he did not want me dead yet. In a nutshell, I spent approximately 2 days with God in this white realm talking to him. He allowed me to ask any questions I wanted to ask and gave the answers he wanted to give. He told me what happened to me and who it was that placed the drugs in my drink. He told me that he would repair my body and that I would feel no pain and I would be fine and to go home. At the conclusion of this, he told me that he wanted me to go to college and not stop until he told me to, and that he would speak to me again. I thanked him, and then I was suddenly back in my body. I woke up to find all my friends staring at me and then panicking. I got up and told them that name omitted had put drugs in my drink and that none of them were my friends anymore. I asked them how long I was laying there, and they said about 30 minutes, and that one of them ran down the mountain to call an ambulance. We were up in the mountains at night hiking in the desert. Because I did not breathe the entire time and they couldn't get a pulse on me or my heart beating, and I turned totally blue, and that they tried mouth to mouth but nothing worked. I said I was fine because God saved me, and I turned around and left and walked down the mountain by myself, and I've never had anything to do with those people again since. I went to university, achieving 3 degrees with good grades and hardly any money. Prior to this, my college career was a disaster. At the conclusion of my last master's degree, God came and spoke to me again and told me I was done with my education. He had put me into service since doing other things he has wanted done, mainly passing messages to various churches for a while and speaking with various people. He and his angels periodically come and speak to me. I have seen the devil a second time as well, except it was on earth the second time, and he recognized me and was pretty angry about it, but left me alone, knowing God told him to stay away from me. There are a ton of things that happened since this, as this experience has never really ended and is an ongoing thing, but this is basically what happened in the initial experience. I've also had to leave out a lot of details simply due to the length of the text. One important detail I should mention is that when I was in hell, I realized there is no escape because you can't kill yourself or be killed because you are already dead. That was the most frightening thing I've ever felt, that you can't even escape through death, and that Satan buries himself deep in your head the whole time and controls you like a puppet. End quote. Wow. You may initially, at least, or upon hearing drug overdose or recreational drugs or some other type of drug problem that causes death, that you might be more skeptical or not. And it's possible. You never know. But it seems like these things are continuing. So there's got to be a little bit more to it. His description of falling through the earth and into hell, and into hell with the doors and the hallways and just the doors after doors after doors, and then having dinner with Satan, and then leaving and getting maybe ousted out of there. Lucky for that. Being saved. That was a great story. There are some questions here. Question: at the time of your experience, was there an associated life-threatening event? Answer: yes. Drug or medication overdose, clinical death, cessation of breathing or heart function. Someone put a large amount of meth in my drink without telling me. After some time, I collapsed dead, no breathing and no pulse. It's talking about his consciousness or alertness. Answer: if my level of consciousness in life were on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being maximum level, then this experience would be like a 100 million as it times x as it approaches infinity. This would become insignificant. This is the tip of a very small needle that is inside a vast, endless ocean. Question. Did time seem to speed up or slow down? Answer. I do not know how to explain time in these other dimensions, and I call them dimensions for lack of a better descriptive word. Realms, I suppose. Time is fairly irrelevant and appears detached in these realms. A second in our time during life might be hours or days in the other realms. Yet speaking of hours or days really doesn't make sense, to be honest. Speaking of time in the other realms is like trying to project something I know from my life onto a totally different construct that is void of time. If I use the idea of time while speaking about the other realms, it is because I am trying to convey a meaning to someone who has no idea what I am talking about. But time really has no meaning in these realms. Question. Were your senses more vivid than usual? Answer. Incredibly more vivid. Question. Comparing your vision. Answer. My vision was perfect. My hearing was perfect. My sensory input was perfect. My thoughts were clear, concise, decisive, and fast as lightning. I only realized this was the case later on, as I was removed from my flesh during the experience. Question. Did you encounter or become aware of any deceased or alive beings? Answer. Yes, I've met some family members going back very far. I've met people I do not know as well. In particular, I met a woman who died in the 1900s who was some kind of actress, not a famous one though. She was murdered. I do not know her name though. Question. Did you enter into some other unearthly world? Answer. As I explained, I fell through the earth into hell, then into a black void, then into a white realm, then back into this three-dimensional space. Question. What emotions did you feel during the experience? Answer. Fear in hell, beyond that which would kill you, if you were alive in this world. Also, great joy and comfort with God. A lot of sorrow and sadness for the people in hell. Perhaps even a new emotion I can't put into words. I can only describe as a form of joyful indifference to this world in a lot of ways now, and knowing this is nothing compared to what is really out there. Did you suddenly seem to understand everything? Answer. For a brief moment I did, and I still have the memory of that, but not now that I am back. I am aware that while in the realms all things make sense, but that they can't while you are here. Question. Did scenes from your past come back to you? Answer. For an instant in time, I was aware of every moment in my life. This included every smell, every feeling, physical, every emotion in time, every thought, every action, every taste, everything as if it was recorded in perfect detail. Question. Did scenes from the future come to you? Answer. Yes, but I prefer not to speak about them unless it is to someone who seriously wants to listen and absorb it. They are disturbing and frustrating. People do not listen, nor will they. What is predetermined is predetermined. The only thing is what path the people want to take to get there. I do not think there are enough people here who truly know what to do God's work to change his mind and what he wants to do. People like the illusion of being in control. They aren't willing to face what it really takes to get into heaven because most of that is contradictory to how we construct our lives here. Question. Did you come to a border or point of no return? Answer. I was sent back by God. There was no border in the physical sense. It was a dimensional thing. I did not want to return to my body or my life, but I was sent back by God. I had no choice in the matter. I wanted to stay with God. Question. What was your religion prior to your experience? Answer, unaffiliated atheist, did not believe in God. Answer, or question, have your religious practices changed since your experience? Answer, yes, I know God exists now. Question, what is your religion now? Answer, Christian, other Christian, science, experience converted me. Question, did your experience include features consistent with your earthly beliefs? Answer, I didn't believe in any of this God mumbo-jumbo at the time. I was purely science-based in my thinking. Some cells come together and multiply and grow and you turn into a person and learn things from other people and live a life and die and turn back into dirt that feeds the next batch of trees and people. That is what I believed at the time. I am 180 degrees from that now. Yes, there is a God. He is real, and all the things that come with a God being real. He has a personality. He likes to laugh and have fun too. He does get mad. That is why we are how we are. We are made in His image. Regardless, we didn't come from nothing. Think about how ridiculous it is to say that we came from nothing. I've never had a sandwich spontaneously appear from nothing on my desk. God could do that, though. Hell, He did it with the whole universe. Question, did you have a change in your values and beliefs because of your experience? Answer, yes, I never wanted kids. Now I have kids and a family. I wanted to be rich and all that. I could care less now, etc. Question, did you seem to encounter a mystical being or presence or hear an unidentifiable voice? Answer, I met Satan and God. Since I have met Satan a second time, a different experience, and many of God's angels, I have also met some people who are not alive and now are in their true form. The true form of a person is light. Question, did you encounter or become aware of any beings who previously lived on earth who are described by name in religions? Answer, yes. I've met Jesus once, but that was a different experience about 15 years later. But you need to understand that all these experiences are related and continuous. Question, during your experience, did you gain information about universal connection or oneness? Answer, yes. It is a network. That is the best description I can give you. It is like the internet on a grand scale that goes way beyond this silly universe we exist in. You are wired into God's network, whether you know it or not. And when you die, you either take all your experiences back to Him and join in this network, or you will be disconnected and sent to hell. Question, during your experience, did you gain information about the existence of God? Answer, yes, I met Him and talked to Him many times since. He is real. I was a total unbeliever prior to this. Now I am what I like to call a knower. That is to mean I haven't faith that He exists. I know, all caps, He exists because I've met Him as clear as when you go outside and meet your neighbor. You do not have faith your neighbor exists. You know they do because you've seen them and met them. Question, during your experience, did you gain special knowledge or information about your purpose? Answer, uncertain. Well, I got to experience something that few people get to experience, sure. But special knowledge? I do not know about that, since most of the knowledge was already given to people, but they just do not want to read it or live it or accept it. There is more specific knowledge, sure, but the general knowledge has been out there for over 2,000 years, and even longer. Question, during your experience, did you gain information about the meaning of life? Answer, yes. I asked God to His face, since He allowed me to talk to Him, what the purpose of life was. He laughed at me and said, why do people dwell on such simple things so much? I said, well, what is the answer then? He said it is very simple. The purpose of life is to live. In addition to this, life in and of itself is defined to be motion. As far as having a purpose while alive, that is assigned to each person, and it is their job to discover it while living and before death. It could be as simple as making a cake for someone, But whatever it is, your task, everyone's task, is to figure out their purpose and do it at least once before they die. Question. During your experience, did you gain information about an afterlife? Answer. An afterlife definitely exists. Yes, I've been there. There are different existences after life. Hell is one realm. Heaven is another. The black void is yet another. The white light realm is yet another. They all serve a purpose, and I do not know what all of them are for. However, hell is pretty much to store the people who aren't going to heaven because their way of thinking isn't compatible with heaven, due to the powers you acquire once in heaven. Heaven is a reward for what you bring back to God. You bring back your life experiences to Him. He needs these for some reason. I do not know exactly why, except to say that He needs them. The white realm is some kind of construct to meet and greet people without exposing them to heaven or hell. And I have no idea what the black void is. It is total darkness, total void. You do not want to be there. There's nothing there. And there could be other realms I am not aware of, but these are the 4 I have seen. Well, 5, if you count this universe as well, what I call the 3D realm. Question. Did you gain information about how to live our lives? Yes. Answer. Yes. Follow the rules and stop breaking them. They are clearly laid out, but people do not want to follow them. Also, never deny your father or his son. Even if confronted with death, love your father. Love your father's son, for he is your brother. You will find that much of the world is in opposition to God. So what? Are you here to please the world or to please your father? Question. During your experience, did you gain information about life's difficulties, challenges, and hardships? Answer. Yes. None of it matters. Literally. You are here to pass a test, and that is all that matters. Pass the test and graduate. Fail the test and go to hell. This is like a quality and control issue, or you can think of it like high school. However you want to view it, pass the test and join God. Question. During your experience, did you gain information about love? Answer. Yes. This is damn near impossible for me to explain, except to say that the opposite of love is indifference, not hate. Satan loves for you to be in hell and is completely indifferent to you. He does not hate you. He just doesn't give a damn about you at all, except for what he wants you to do for him. Love is being what your Father wants you to be and joining him in the end. Love is not acceptance of other people. That is a fast track to hell, by the way. Love is being the person your Father wants you to be, and you can be, and trying to be that with all your heart because you love your Father. Question. What life changes occurred after your experience? Answer. Money doesn't mean jack. It really doesn't. As weird as it sounds, and as difficult as people find that, absorb, and accept, it is true. Question. Have your relationships changed specifically because of your experience? Answer. Yes, I stopped messing around with girls and got married and got serious. I stopped treating people bad in many ways. I've become incompatible with the business world in many ways. Question. How accurately do you remember the experience? Answer. No matter how many days go by, it all happened as if it was yesterday. It is permanently burned into my memory. Question. Do you have any psychic, non-ordinary, or other special gifts after your experience that you did not have before the experience? Answer. Yes. I don't think of it as psychic or special or gifts. It isn't anything that any other person couldn't do if they wanted to, and many do. I see and talk to God, angels, demons, etc. Question. Are there one or several parts of the experience that are especially meaningful or significant to you? Answer. Getting to heaven and teaching kids how to get there. Question. Have you ever shared this experience with others? Answer. Yes, only a few people. Most people don't care or would think you are crazy, and it is wasted time and effort trying to talk to most people. They are too busy watching TV or something useless. Question: did you have any knowledge of NDEs prior to your experience? Answer: I had a very bad, severe reaction to a vaccination as a baby and also stopped breathing and turned blue, and my heart stopped at the time. Somehow I came back and survived that. As a result, I cannot be vaccinated. Regardless, I do not remember it since I was a baby. I do not know if it is related or not. Sometimes I think it is, though. Question: what do you believe about the reality of your experience? Answer: I was very confused and scared. It took some time for me to sort it all out in my head. I knew something real happened, but what was the question? Question: what do you think about the reality of your experience now? Answer: experience was definitely real, 100% certain. Question: at any time in your life, has anything ever reproduced any part of the experience? Answer: yes, God and angels talk to me periodically. End questions, end quote, end story. And what a beautiful story. Lots of great information. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.